Billy, I can't pretend we haven't done 2 intros already, so let's just get rolling with it. How you doing today, my friend?
Dude, I'm doing really great, man.
I think this is a perfect start to a podcast. You know, there's part of this whole fun journey is diagnosing the issues as they arise along the way. So it's all about learning, and that's what we're doing today.
Definitely, man. Definitely.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this and how old you are, where you come from? Just give us the full Billy Trout spiel.
Awesome, man. So I'm Billy Trout. I am 21 years old. I'm from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I got into this stuff a couple years ago. Really, I think it's probably about 4 years ago now. I really started taking the guitar seriously. I'd played my whole life, and I've always been kind of tech savvy. I used to take apart like Xbox controllers when I was younger and install like the rapid fire mods so I could beat people in the game because I guess I wasn't good enough regularly.
Dude, that's perfect.
But no, yeah. So I used to I learned how to solder when I was like 7 in my room. My dad was like, don't inhale that, and
Sure.
as at one point I remember being like young and walking out of my room and my face was all red and my mom was like, your room is not a workshop.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway.
Clearly it is.
It is. But I have like a lot of like hands-on experience. I had a lot of hands-on experience with electronics, and I jumped around. I did various like hobbies. I've always kind of been like a hobby hopper throughout my life, but I've always kind of played guitar, always picked up guitar. My dad played guitar and stuff. So I started taking the guitar seriously a couple years ago, and when I did, I got a Fender Strat. I got myself a little Orange Crush 35 RT because I thought it looked cool. I was like, oh yeah, I got myself this white ribbon or like this white windy cable. I thought I looked so cool. And I played for a long time. And I really liked the sound that came out, but I didn't really care about my tone. It was just kind of, I was playing, I was just learning how to play. I had, it was just getting started.
Yeah.
But when I got more serious about listening to the Grateful Dead, I had experiences in my life, and I got really serious about listening to them and really putting time in and, in crafting that. And it's the classic story, man, that everybody I feel like I talk to will say is like, you listen and you have this thing. It's like you're Jeri could dance you somewhere. He could place you on the edge of like being able to fall off into this abyss, but the abyss wasn't dark. It was full of light.
Yeah,
and it was
absolutely.
fun, and
it's
crazy.
It's a different place.
And yeah, it is. It's definitely. And just the band's entire ability to take you somewhere has just, that's always, really struck me as cool. So when I really started, I looked up on some forums, how can I get my tone like Jeri's, because I really liked it. And you hear that sound and you fiddle with your amp, and nothing comes close.
Do I have to use a coin? Like, is it a Brian May kind of thing?
Exactly. like nothing makes sense, So I started looking stuff up, and I found, Are You Kind? And what a crazy resource,
Insane.
That's I don't use it much anymore, politics.
Yeah.
But
that's the story.
But that's a conversation for a different time. But I found it, man, and I looked up the wiring schematics. I'd never actually read a schematic before, and honestly, I wasn't even reading a schematic. I was looking at a wiring diagram, and I was just like, okay, I think if I do this, it'll work, and then it wouldn't work. I remember at one point I didn't have a space to work. I lived in this, at the time that I started doing this, it was just this really small little apartment. It was just me and my girlfriend, and I just had my kitchen counter, and my neck the neck of the guitar hung over the sink.
That's all you need, though.
That was all I needed. So I remember walking out in the morning after a night of trying to get this thing to work, and I just I kind of got a little I was really sad, man. I was like, I messed up my guitar, you know what I mean? But I dove back in with my dad was like, use a multimeter, and I was like, yeah, man, I didn't realize that at the time. That became my best friend. But
That's awesome.
I went back in, figured it out, and I posted it online, and Mike Wald commented on it and was like, "Great job, man." And I remember being like, I like told my family about it. I was like, "Oh man, like, oh dude, like the dude just told me that I did a good job." You know, I was like,
That's
"Yeah,
so
man."
cool.
Yeah, so that was so that kind of started it, and essentially it was more just going deeper and deeper and deeper, and revealing layers, finding things out, on your own.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've been really fortunate in that I've had a lot of help on the way.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Help
so
on the way. Wow.
Yeah, I know. As soon as it
that
left my mouth, I
intentional,
was like,
Billy?
ah, man, no, it wasn't. It wasn't. But yeah.
Oh man. Well, that's
So-
awesome. So what year was
Yeah.
that you're posting on Are You Kind and Mike Wald's commenting on your stuff?
Oh
When-
man, probably like 2016, maybe.
Okay,
like,
cool.
Like like
That's-
2015, 2016.
That seems to be like the start of the second wave of interest, if you could even call it that. Like the overall
Yeah.
kind of technical and people trying to find the right guitar and find the right amps, and it seems like knowledge became a little more commonplace around then. Would it be safe to say?
Yeah. I think a lot of that came from Dead and Company too. I mean, it's like when Dead and Company came back, or when it came to, I should came back. I mean, it totally provided the people that had never, like us, who had never seen the Dead, not the live Dead experience, but a live Dead experience. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like
Absolutely.
nothing. Yeah. It's so I think that definitely sparked that new interest, And I mean, dude, like I'd be crazy to say that it didn't for me. You know what I mean? Like
I'm the same way.
yeah, it's same end goal, but just a different path there. Really cool.
Yep. I think that was it was really neat to see that here's an inspirational guitar hero for our generation. I mean, he's significantly older than us, but John
sure.
Mayer, has always been he's always been made fun of as a pop act, but also, widely listened to, and he's made a lot more money than probably any of us. So
For sure.
So
for sure.
and super talented musician. So it was neat to see them kind of adopt him in a way, and Bob Weir go, here, let's see what you got, and I think he's, that's another conversation too. But Dead and Company, I would absolutely agree.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
me, seeing them once, there's plenty of things to say. If you're not the biggest fan of Dead and Company, but at least as an inspirational band for a new generation that didn't get to see this stuff before. I was born in '96, so that's a year and a month ish after Jeri died. So it's we don't have any chance to actually hear him play or see him play other than the videos and the history and the shows. So how cool is it that we fell in love with a band that happens to have probably the most of that ever?
For sure. And during a time where, I mean, it's kind of I don't know. I had a conversation with someone on the forum the other day, the Grateful Dead musicians forum, and talking about just like analog and how it's kind of the market is kind of weird for it right now. It's kind of dying, and they were saying, but at the same time, it's the thing that I kind of brought up was like, I don't know about you, but I can't find vintage audio near me. Because it's being snatched up by people. So so there are people interested in this. There are people that like, obviously we've had digital for a really long time, and I feel like now it's like we're starting to be like, man, convenience really great, but this still sounds bomb, man. Like, this is it. We still haven't gotten better than this. In
the professional and the consumer worlds, I can't remember if it was 2018. Was that the first year that vinyls outsold CDs in however 30 40 years, something like that?
That's amazing.
So it's definitely making a comeback, and I can see it with my friends who are not necessarily audio professionals, but they have an interest in it, and they're reverting to the old stuff. And look at our places around us, our little studios. There's analog stuff floating everywhere. So a lot of people ask pretty regularly, what are the most common aspects of Jeri tone? And we're talking about, as people diving into this, it's hard to just hear it and immediately know what's going on. So you're looking on forums. What are some of the things that you've learned over this 5 or 6 year journey of yours?
Oh man, So fortunately, I have this nice little list I made up of some stuff that I feel is really important. And the first thing that I just want to say, first of all, is it is all in the fingers. It is.
Awesome.
And I believe
it.
it is. I'm a tone guy, but it's all in the fingers.
Dude,
You can, you couldn't put Stevie Ray Vaughan on a Jeri amp and expect him to sound like Jeri. That's unbelievable.
Yeah,
You
would
you
probably
have
still sound like Stevie.
yeah. It all depends on your expression. It depends on how hard you hit the strings, and you have to think. Jeri was running a low, this low impedance buffer in his guitar. He had everything pretty much, he didn't have all his volumes dimed. He had his, the gain on the Fender Twin at about 5.5, 6,
Okay.
something like that, and then had the Mac really high up. If he would have turned his volume all the way up and strummed a chord, he would have blown his speakers.
everything. He had
would
to be delicate, right?
Yeah, he would have blown up. So he needed to play with such a softness. And Matthew Cole from Dedicated, he's even mentioned on the forums a couple times that you have to play really lightly. I mean, especially with the envelope filter, it's so important to play extremely lightly. So I do believe it all is in the fingers. Your clarity is key. That's a really big thing. So I think the first place where a lot of people kind of tend to go wrong is their settings. You can't take an amp that is not like a Fender tube amp, put it on 10, 5.5, 6, and 0, and expect to sound like Jeri.
Yes.
You're gonna have terrible results. And even in amps like there's this I had this Monoprice 15-watt tube amp. You see it online a lot. You see it on Reddit a lot. It's like a really popular tube amp for people to buy because it's relatively cheap, sounds good and stuff. And I bought it because when I looked at the schematic, the tone stack was set up in the same way as the Fender. But even with that, even with everything, it's really important to have a Fender amp with the correct settings, a Fender tube amp, in my opinion, and have the correct settings. That's just something that has been, that I've found to be one of the most important things. And don't just put it on, 10, 5, and 0. What I'd recommend doing is put it on 10, because if in the Fender tone stack, most of the treble all of the signal goes through the treble capacitor, and the mids and the lows, the low frequencies, the mids and the bass frequencies, when you turn them down, they're essentially filters. They're cutoff filters.
Okay.
So you're not adding or subtracting sound. You're actually taking away and allowing sound through.
Interesting.
So yeah, now that's for Fender tube amps with the AB763 style tone stack. Is that's the way it flows. So essentially, by having the treble all the way up, you're allowing the whole amp to breathe. You're allowing all the frequencies to come out, and with the bass at 0, you're snubbing a lot of those lows like Jeri did, and you're using your mids as your lows. Yeah, so I mean, I think that is kind of is one of the most important things, is using your ears. That's what I'm trying to say, is use your ears. Use the recommendations, but use your ears. Keep the treble high, but you don't want it to be super extremely piercy. Sometimes it will be piercy until you dial in the mids. It's a balancing game, really.
That's cool.
So that's kind of, something that I've found, really. Something like a deluxe reverb that has the mids locked in at like 6.8.
Okay.
Really cool, man. Really cool.
That's nice.
Yeah, I like that. I like when it's because that's about where you want it. But at the same time, the mids pot has capacitance. That's a whole nother topic for, that's a whole nother talk.
The words you just said were slightly above my pay grade.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. We'll move on. Fender or the Dimarzio pickups Jeri used, dual sounds, Super 2s, something like that. Because Jeri experimented a lot. He had a lot of different pickups, and I mean, you can listen to shows where he was running different sets of pickups, and I mean, it's all flavor. It really comes down to flavor. If I had a pickup that I'd recommend, man, oh man, dude, Jason Ferguson, man, he blew my mind with that Fender Alnico 5 Wow, man. I think it's a 59, maybe, or no, it's 69. I don't know what it is.
Does he have a
But-
video up somewhere?
Yeah, he has that, but I bought one for my buddy, and he played it through my amp, and it's just, oh man, it's unbelievable.
Well, now I really wanna
It sounds
get some.
amazing. Yeah, no,
Awesome.
I highly recommend that. From my personal, I really liked the sound of that.
That's awesome.
But also, one of the big things is, you can get the pickups and all that stuff, but really highly recommend Buffer Blaster. Really recommend. And Jeri needed the buffer for a couple reasons. He needed the buffer because they were running 100 feet cable runs.
Yep.
You and I will probably never run into that.
Yep.
Unless you play a stadium someday, which is
Well,
a lot more likely than
that'd
me.
be-
But
For now, we're just podcasting. So
yeah, but yeah, exactly. But so then also with the buffer too, or I'm sorry, the blaster. The blaster was essentially it essentially did the same thing. It helped to keep the highs there when you would turn it down.
Okay.
So those parts, people may say you don't need them because, Jeri, he needed them for this purpose. He needed them for X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
His sound ran through it. The guitar ran through it. And it does provide this amazing clarity and feel. Like, it's this, magic, you won't know until you try it. But
Yeah.
really, it's you won't know. It feels really nice. It's like the cleanest sounding Strat you've ever played or whatever,
Yes.
you put it in.
It
Like,
almost
it's-
a little larger than life, maybe.
Yeah,
Is the way to
yeah.
describe. Yeah. You're like getting disproportionately more output from what you put into it. It doesn't seem to add up.
Yeah, and it's also an interesting thing too, because your output may not necessarily increase, but I guess theoretically, depending on what you use, it can. But most of the time, when we use the Tiger buffer, when you buy what is it called? I believe a Waldotronic Spud buffer. When you buy a Spud buffer, that is a pretty much almost identical recreation of what was in Jeri's guitar, and
Awesome.
that is negative 1.7 decibels. So it's not unity gain. That's a myth. That's one of those myths. That he ran his guitar at unity gain. He didn't. He ran it at minus 1 point. I think it was 7 or 1.4, something like that. Someone needs to double check me. But
Interesting.
yeah. So it's not, that's kind of something that I see thrown around a lot, and is that unity gain thing. And it really doesn't have to be unity gain. In fact, I like how the envelope filter responds when it's not unity gain. I feel like I have more control over the volume of the whole system when it's not unity gain. Yeah, you also have to think. You have to think like a guitar. A guitar, what we're doing is we have a magnet, and we're putting a string over top, and we're creating, positive and negative AC cycles. And that, if you plugged that directly into like a speaker, it wouldn't output anything. You know what I mean? But because it goes through the stages of amplification, it essentially, the speaker cone moves in and outward exactly the way you pick.
That's
based
so cool.
based on the direction that the string is flowing.
Wow.
That's
It's truly translated mechanical energy.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's physical energy as well. It's physics. It's amazing. It's
awesome.
Yeah. So having a lot of signal altering things beforehand is not going to make the end result sound pretty. That's why I tend to be, just me personally, not much of a boost pedal guy. I have buffers in all my guitars, but I'm just not much of a boost pedal guy myself.
Yeah.
And dude, I have to admit, I haven't looked at a bunch of boost pedals on the scope to be able to tell you, oh, this one sucks, this one's great, this one sucks. So, guys, if anybody else can tell us, please chime in. It'd be really
Absolutely.
cool to have some further discussion about this, because I am still learning as well. I know a bit, but I'm seeing here that Chuck Polson asked a question on the forum. He was saying, should I be using the FX return on the Quilter 202, or should I be using the input? That is really interesting. Here's my personal experience using the quilters. I've ran the quilters. I like how the quilters sound. I have a Quilter 101 Mini, okay? One of the ones
Yep.
where it didn't actually have like treble, mids, and bass. It had the weird two-tone
Awful.
shaping things, and then you could like select
strange,
the power
dude.
amp. It's super weird. But the problem is I went on and I took my measurements, and I said with essentially adding the dummy plug doesn't do anything to my 101. But as we were just talking about like a bit ago, like you had kind of mentioned like kind of off the air that the Mach, what was it, the Mach 1 or Mach 2?
The Mach 2. That's what it is. It's not Roman numerals. It has the actual number. I'll just say that, Brad Sarno was saying, I think across the board, everybody's been getting these tone blocks. I saw the Mach 2, and I was like, well, that's bigger.
Yeah.
Maybe I should get that. So I get it, and then I plug my SMS. And here's what's very interesting, I find, is everybody, I don't know where your pad is on an SMS, but if I go to a gig and I have the output pad above 30% on the SMS, and I have the gain above the same, about maybe 10:30, 11 o'clock, kind of.
Yeah.
And I plug into the effects return, I am ungodly loud.
Yeah.
And I have no master volume control. It's bypassed on the Mach 2. So I was going to ask, how does that stack up? Are these quilters different? I imagine the circuits have to be different, right?
Yeah, for sure. The quilter thing is really cool. But yeah, I think that's the problem, is that, they kind of design these circuits, and there's I haven't seen them come out and say, yes, this is definitely the case for this one. Yes, this is definitely the case. It's like the manuals, some of them seem kind of copied and pasted from one manual to the next. So it's really hard to be like, what's happening here. So this is my personal experience, right? So what I used to do was I used to run into the FX return of the quilter. And the problem that I had was I had a master volume. With my 101, I was able to go into the effects return and have the master volume of the whole thing. The problem is when I would dig in, it would clip horrifically, not in a musically pleasing way. In a very unmusically pleasing way. It was not chill, man. Not where it's at. So that was kind of my experience. So when I would run it, I kind of tended to go, okay, why am I running a quilter? I'm running a quilter because I'm dropping weight. I can't expect to have the same tone coming out of a lighter weight thing.
It's not a Macintosh, and it never will be.
Yeah,
you have to accept that going in.
Yeah, I go into the input, and I just do my best to keep the power amp warm. I do my best to keep the power amp, to give the power amp a little tiny bit of mids and bass response, and knock the treble down just like a little bit, just a little bit, and because if you can't have a Mac, if you can't get a Macintosh, you have to essentially simulate. What's the Macintosh sound? Well, the Macintosh sound is the solid state transistor sound is warm. It's tube-like. It has nice bass response, but it's very crisp. So I'm not saying that a Macintosh is the only way to go, but it's the best way to go. And I think these quilters are definitely getting better. Right now the only other thing I'd probably get other than a Macintosh is a MOS valve. I haven't come across one for a good price yet, so I'm holding out until I find
one.
What
do those run for typically? Is that a pricey one?
Yeah, not really. Probably like $250 to $300. You can
nice.
you can find one, and they're great power amps, and they clip nice. And
cool.
Yeah, they are nice and warm too, which is something definitely to be appreciated.
Matthew Cole from Dedicated maybe uses one. Is that?
Yes, he does. He does.
Seen
he
one in
uses
his rig, I think.
Yeah, he uses a 962. He's awesome, man. He has a couple setups. If I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken, but I believe he has an FYD spud,
spuds, right?
a twin spud,
Yep.
and an SMS spud.
Yeah, so he has all the spud amps.
So it would be really interesting to get him in and see him what he thinks of that. That's really cool. And he switches between a Macintosh and a Moss valve, I feel like, pretty often. So he probably would be able to comment a little bit better about that than me.
That's the thing, is like, we're suckers for easy to carry rigs, but we're also suckers for
Good tone. Yeah.
Giant, heavy, bulky things.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a best of both worlds, I guess, but also, you have to be willing to not, I don't know what the word is exactly, compromise, but you have to be willing to kind of be ready for your ear not to hear that Macintosh tone and just kind of accept it for its own sound.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But yeah, so quilters, I don't know. What do you run your gain on when you are running into the front? Is that pretty low? Do you try to keep it?
Oh, when I'm
halfway.
Oh yeah. Like, I'll keep the gain relatively low and turn the master up, as much as I physically can, because also on the back of the SMS, I'd probably keep it at like 70 to 80, or even experiment with like 100 and just see what happens. Really, yeah, it's
cool.
You're not going to hurt anything by trying, you know what I mean? So
okay, so it's not blowing any circuits.
Yeah, you should be just fine. So
awesome, man. Well, that's crazy. That's just preamps and power amps alone, I think, that we've gotten into, and we covered some buffers. Let's talk about fresh strings, JBLs, picks.
Yeah.
JBLs deserve. They're a category of their own.
Yeah.
But let's talk about some of the other stuff that goes into it.
For sure. One of the things for me that is just so important to getting this sound, man, is a lush reverb. If your reverb isn't big, give it a shot. Play if you ever have the opportunity, play something like a Spud amp or a really, beefed up twin with no reverb. It doesn't have the same chime like Jeri. It's like when the reverb goes up, you're like, wow, that's half of it. Really is that being able to hang on, and that it's like a mystique at the end. It's like it's really amazing.
A little salt sprinkle.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's flavor, and it's a wonderful flavor, and he liked a lot of it. So that's definitely something.
What do you recommend setting wise? Like, if you have a typical Fender tube amp or something with the spring reverb, let's say a twin or a deluxe, are you throwing it on 10, or like how does that work?
I'm putting it. What I'll normally do is put it on about 5, and then I'll go and then just up or down. Just see what's going on. A lot of a lot of it comes down to taste, and a lot of it is just listening to Jeri. In those moments where the whole band gets quiet and he's playing, you're like, wow, you can really hear how his note hangs on there from the reverb, know? And yeah, that's killer.
Have you ever observed, I don't know if this is just me, but Jeri Garcia band recordings, I've always thought I've heard a little more reverb going on. And I don't know if that was the venues they played. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's just a trick thing going on in my head, but what's your perception there? Was he using drastically different settings between the bands?
Well, I'm two things. First of all, it's sonically different playing in more of a ballroom than like a stadium, and I know JGB would play in more of like a ballroom kind of atmosphere. That being said, we also have to remember that when he was in JGB, he'd play with boogies. So we're talking, I haven't looked into the schematics of boogies really intensely, but I know the reverb is different. I know it's different. That's what I know. So cool. It also could be
so
that.
It's a different sound then.
Yeah,
that's very interesting.
Yeah, it could be a number of things, like, you can control the depth, you can control the presence, all that cool stuff you can do on different amps, so.
very neat. Man, we need a boogie expert on here. Is Jason Ferguson? He's a boogie guy, right?
Yeah. He just posted a picture and videos of that beautiful boogie with that
insane.
with the bean, with the I think the rush bean. Oh man.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
Oh, it looks so good. I want to play that thing so badly, both the guitar and the amplifier.
Yeah, it's incredible.
That's awesome, man. So how did JBLs play a role in the sound?
How don't they?
Obviously.
Man? How don't
I know, right?
They're it.
That's it.
I think I mean if you look back, the furthest you can go, really, they really in the beginning they played with the speakers they could get their hands on. There was also there have also been these other kind of odds and ends, different speakers, different specific, but when they found the twin with the JBL, that was like the JBLs were really it. The thing about JBLs that people I think really get wrong these days is people believe that JBLs are a bright speaker, or maybe at least in our community, we're under the impression that JBLs are a bright speaker because we're getting a bright tone out of them. But JBLs themselves on their own, without all the Jeri stuff, are an inherently dark speaker. So you have to throw a gazillion tons of treble at it to get it to sound how you want it to. And then you also have to play with it and filter it more in order to get the proper frequencies that you want for the Jeri sound. Personally, I have a favorite, and it's not a conventional favorite. I like the D120Fs.
Really?
Yes, I am in love with the D120Fs. They are the brightest of the three. Yeah. They are also the most expensive and hard to find of the three as well.
What, like $500 sometimes?
This one behind me was $350. And I mean that's my pride and joy right there. Truly,
that's a great price though for one.
That's
pretty good.
It is original cone. Wow. It was in great shape. I was extremely happy with it. And I mean, I honestly, personally, my ears have only been blessed with hearing K120s from another band. I haven't sat down and heard K120s played out of my own hands. That being said, K120s would probably be my second favorite.
Yeah.
Because they just have that nice, brightness and that nice flavor.
Kind of a mix between the D's and E's, maybe?
Yeah, I think in a way, the E's were different entirely because they went ceramic. The magnet was ceramic, so we're talking a whole different magnet. And I mean, the E's are they're an unbelievable speaker. I love E120s. I love them so much. I just cannot find a fucking use for them, man. They are so loud. And with what we're trying to do with Jeri Tone, we're trying to recreate his clipping. We're trying to recreate his, power amp all the way up, his speaker being pushed to the brink.
Volumes.
yeah, exactly. Just at slightly lower volumes.
Yeah.
So we have to, you have to get the speaker moving, and you got to get it pumping, and you have to get, it really moving to get that smoothness that came with the JBL Overdrive. And I mean, it's a lot easier to get on a speaker rated for 30 or 50 watts than like 200. Oh my God.
Yeah,
like it's unreal.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
Like, it's nice to have an E cab laying around, but I've literally, it's left the house twice.
Exactly. and I know for a fact that you didn't push it at all with what, it could have been. Like,
dude, I maybe threw 50 watts at it like during some notes.
Exactly.
And I'm sure it would sound amazing to push it like that, but realistically, even at the biggest place I've ever played, which was like the convention part, it wasn't an actual arena, but it was a large room. It was too much for me. I was like self-conscious for my bandmates. Because I'm like, or not for my bandmates, but for me being in front of my bandmates, I don't want to be blowing them out of the water. But apparently it's directional enough that you can turn it up and the bleed isn't crazy. But I mean, I feel you. Running more than one E120 seems kind of absurd in most contexts.
It does. But I mean, people make it work. Like, I mean, you can, Josh Olkin plays E120.
Shout out
I'm never
Josh
gonna go to
Olkin.
him and be like, dude, I don't know, you should be playing
man,
D or K's, man. Or I don't know, like, dude, he got it, man. He has it.
He has the sound.
he has it.
No
Yeah.
doubt about it.
So yeah, it's that all that stuff just comes down to personal preference. But just you want a JBL. The way it's voiced, I mean, these frequencies were made to come out of this speaker, essentially, and that's one thing. Okay, I just to kind of just say this for a second. This is one thing that people need to remember as they are chasing and hunting this tone, is when we're trying to do it in a budget way, it's obviously not gonna be perfect. We can't expect it to. I used to expect some perfection, man. I ripped apart my first ever deluxe reverb, my Fender amp, because I was searching for perfection. And it's just like, yeah, man.
You said you tried to, did you do a whole hand wired thing, or was that with the
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
That's awesome.
all of it. So yeah. So that's a whole thing, you know.
We're simulating at best.
Yeah, we
sometimes.
are. You can't. You have to. If you're going to make sacrifices, you can't expect all the tone. You have to expect some tone to be sacrificed too. It's also cool to think about what the Grateful Dead were trying to do. Really, they were attempting to put the audience right there with them.
Yeah.
From my research, from what I've seen, it seems like that was their goal. They wanted to put the audience literally, into their hands. They wanted to, when they picked, they wanted the audience to feel every little bit of the pick. Or when they, would hit a kick drum, they wanted the audience to feel it in their chest. When Phil would drop the brown note, he wanted everybody to shit their pants.
I love it.
Like he, you know what I mean, man?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's so true.
It was a physical experience as well, from my understanding. And so that's what we have to recreate. We have to recreate that physical experience, the feeling of 600. I don't think in our lifetime we'll ever feel 600 watts of air smacking us in the face.
Probably not.
But we can get close.
That's amazing. Well, it is. It's a yoga of sorts, or a physical meditation. You're translating the best you can as a musician what your experience of playing music is like. Like it's never been a show like an Elton John show. I don't know why he comes to mind, but he's like an entertainer. He gets on. He has it's beautiful and he's awesome. But when you watch the Grateful Dead play, you're not really watching. You're not going to see a perfect show. You're going to see Jeri fuck up the lyrics and to see that group dynamic of like, oh, Bob's kind of playing the lead into this tune, but Phil's pulling this, or whatever the direction is. I think of it just as much as a sitcom, almost like a beloved TV show that you know these characters and you respond to them and their development, and now it's about, oh wow, in '87 this happened, and wow, like there's so many things to learn and love about the music and the sound that it's what a perfect thing to be obsessed with, right? Yeah,
one of my favorite bits about being part of it is I feel like when I go and I see a band, like a really nice band live. This happened to me the other night, man. I was watching the Terrapin Flyer live stream.
Oh, unreal. Everyone should go watch that.
I know. Wow. To. If if you haven't seen that, go watch that immediately. That's unreal. I was watching it, and the thing that I love about the Grateful Dead and what I love about these bands that are able to really tap into that place is I feel like it's just as much, if not hell of a lot more of a show when I close my eyes and when I'm not seeing the band and when I'm just hearing what they're saying in that musical way. Just at a show, I always thought that was the coolest thing, how I could go to a show, close my eyes, and get a better, if not, get a more crazy experience just from that. Yeah.
That's really beautiful. It's a very comprehensive understanding just from the auditory side alone.
Yeah, and our generation, we don't do deep listening. anymore.
No.
The generations before us, and I mean, you can ask people. I'm not trying to be like, oh, I was born in the wrong
Back in the
time,
good old-
like,
yeah.
but the generations before us will tell you that there was a deep listening. You used to put on a record, and you would close your eyes, and you would listen to that thing, man. You would hear it. You would hear those waveforms as they entered you, and that's we've lost that, and I think that's something with the increase in the demand for audio gear. I think with the all that. We're taking the time to deep listen again. I think a lot of people are taking the time to stop and go like, we almost have all this. It's like fast fashion, but with music. You know what I mean? It comes and it goes. It comes and it goes. It comes and it goes. These are things that are standing the test of time and aren't moving. They're built to last, if you will.
And for the second time today, Billy hits a fabulous dead pun. Works at a great time.
That one was on purpose. Yeah, so I think so just a really quick overview for the Jeri tone, because I think we went all around. It's all in the fingers. Your clarity is key. You got to have the correct settings.
Yes.
You need Fender or Dimarzio style pickups. Like I said, pickups like that Fender Alnico 5, awesome pickup. It's
Jason
a single
Ferguson.
coil. It'll fit into most Strats. Yes, Jason Ferguson, the man. Fender or Fender style preamp. You want something that's tube. In my opinion, for harmonics. A lot of people do stuff that's voiced like a twin. Dude, I've gotten really awesome tones out of my little Orange Crush R35, I'm sorry, 35 RT. It's a little solid state amp, but it has a clean channel that's just, it's bitchin'. So like,
nice.
Just something voiced
Use your
like
ears.
a twin. Yeah, exactly. Lush reverb, fresh strings. He changed strings 2 to 3 times a show. That is
2
like
to 3 times.
two
a
to
show?
2 to 3 times. Well, I mean set breaks, and I'd imagine drums in
yeah.
space. Like it's. I mean he was going in. I mean, and we could talk about how sweaty Jeri was, but that's a conversation.
He had the acidic sweat, right?
Yeah,
Was that-
yeah, he did. He did.
I'm fortunately blessed to not have that.
Yeah, I don't think I don't have it that bad either.
I have some friends that do, and they eat up guitars. But
man,
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so fresh strings. That's like number 3 or 4.
And JBL, and as some kind of little optional things, Adamas Graphite Picks. I love those. Keep your action high. It really gives you some nice plunk. I think either keep your action high or keep it low, so you get some of the fret like buzz sound, because when Jeri would like young, like I don't know if that makes any sense, but like
it's the blastery kind of 70s sound that you get from I don't know if it's a blaster, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like a ring, and yeah, so that, and I think also if you can, a Macintosh. That is the common overlooked. It's like, oh man, I'm not gonna get a Macintosh, man. I don't need that. Like, we have all these. Really consider it. Really, because you're gonna try to get other stuff to make it sound like it, and you're gonna be unhappy. In my
color,
opinion.
yeah, I agree, man. When I got my Macintosh, it was just MC50, and side by side, I was like, I had the Quilter, and had been playing on it for a while. And side by side, the Quilter versus Macintosh. Not at all to disparage Quilter, because I love it. But I was like, oh, that's the missing color. It was like just the color is the way I would describe it the most. It's very subtle, but it's also not subtle. Like it's very noticeable.
Yeah. We tell the viewers we blew up one of your Macs the other
I've told a couple people my MC50, I need to send it to Jason or somewhere, because Billy helped me with my first amp mod, and I was so proud and I was so excited that I had my MC50 master wide open, and I had my newly converted preamp out plugged straight into this, and I was like, yeah, 5 or 6 is probably fine to have the volume on. And I got really excited because it sounded so good. So I played.
It sounded so
was
good.
it Tennessee Jet? Yeah, it was that. And I think right on that bow, I just. And I was like, "Hey,
That was
Billy."
it.
Hey,
And I was like, oh, I don't think that's supposed
he was
to be
like,
doing that.
what just happened? I was like, I think I don't know, but I think I maybe blew something up.
Yeah. It will come back. So yeah, so real quick to kind of wrap it up. A lot of people kind of know me as I've posted a lot of envelope filter videos, so I figured I would wrap it up with that.
Awesome.
So I've tried a couple here. I'll list them off and tell you which ones are my favorite here. So you have the Qtron Micro. I've had a 2000s Qtron Plus, a big box Qtron, HasLabs Mutron, Microtron 3, Microtron 4, and a Naughty Fish MT3. And yeah, it's a couple, man. It's a couple. So Micro was actually a buddy's that he gave me to borrow. I liked it. It's very quacky. It's like pat, pat, pat. That's kind of just how it. Yeah, it's like kind of weird. The voice is a little weird. Late 2000s. No, I'm sorry, not late 2000s. Early or late 1990s. Qtron Plus, great, man, killer.
Awesome.
If you do some the R32 mod, it's great. It's nearly identical to a Mutron 3, but I believe the opto is a little different. So it's gonna have a bit of a different character, but it's close.
Awesome.
Big box Qtron. Wait, no. No, I just said that one. The big box Qtron. What was it? The HasLabs Mutron 3.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
I see a lot of controversial.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of,
that.
and I mean it's well deserved. That it's not a great pedal. You know they took advantage of a situation, which I guess people do sometimes. I guess I don't know the exact thing. To my understanding, it was a copyright or patent or something. They ended up being able to literally produce the same pedal with the same product name, which is yeah, that's really wild. And not only that, they gut it and put this ridiculous digital envelope filter circuit in it that just doesn't sound great. So yeah, I'm pretty.
It's like making a Ford truck and then just putting like a scooter-sized engine.
Yeah, exactly, and calling
it's
it like a Ford.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
exactly.
yeah. It's a Ford.
It's great.
Yeah.
Lots of horsepower.
Yeah, but yeah. So I definitely would say steer clear of that one. Both of the Microtrons, I've run into both of the Microtrons in my day, and they are awesome, man. They're killer.
The new ones, right? The
yeah.
Awesome. I have the 3. I don't know. You have the 4 now, right?
Yeah, I sold my 3 to a buddy and got a 4 because
Cool.
I wanted to experiment with the different optos. I've had the red, all 3, the red, the blue, and the yellow optos,
Cool.
and the stock one's the best.
Awesome.
Stock one's the best in my in my personal opinion. I haven't used a 3-leaf Proton. I have used the one that was really interesting that I got one time was a Naughty Fish clone. So it's an MT3 clone, 9-volt powered. I think it had something bi power supply or something like that was supposed to run it at 18 volts or something cool. But it only needed 9, and yeah, I think a lot of that, the opto is like extremely important. If it's not right, it just sounds extremely like bitey. Yeah, that's about it. I mean, honestly, I would highly recommend Microtrons. The Qtrons do the job really well, but if you want to take it that step further, Microtron,
You can get better than a Qtron, right?
yeah, you can, but I mean, if you want the best there is, vintage Mutron 3. I've only ever played one. I do not own one. I would love to own one someday, but
They look so cool, man.
Yeah, that's someday in the future.
Oh man, one day we'll have it all, right?
Yeah,
Like
hopefully.
Pokemon, catch them all.
And then my grandkids will sell them all for dirt cheap at a yard sale.
Yeah, Grandpa's old.
Yeah,
stupid stereo equipment.
Grandpa's a nut.
Grandpa
Stupid
was-
stereo equipment.
He used to tell us about his stories with a soldering iron at age 7
God.
and a multimeter.
Life's looking awesome so far.
Well, man, we got to have you back on as a guest. This is super fun and very informative to talk to you, and Thank you for sharing what you know with everybody. I'm sure people are grateful for, it's called Grateful Talks. So
Yeah,
that's
man.
what it's all about, is just sharing, passing on some knowledge. And I guess if there's questions for us, we're active on social media, so you can drop them in the comments, and one of us will try to answer, I bet. But Billy, thank you so much for being on and joining us today. And we'll be back with more people and more episodes in the future. Is there anything you want to plug while I got you on?
No, man. Just
Are you doing repairs? Are you
Yeah,
doing tech work?
I am. I'm only doing them locally though.
Okay,
It's,
gotcha.
Yeah, and it's slow. So
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna like push that. What I will say is, just stay safe. Don't take unnecessary risks. We're all in this together, and I really appreciate you having me on, man. I'm excited to see where this goes in the future, and I hope I can come back at some point.
Absolutely, man. You got a slot anytime you want. Just call me up and say the word.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Cool, man. Thank you so much.
All right.